Good morning everyone, my name's Jade. I'm an education officer for Essex County Fire and Rescue Service. I also work for Essex Police. My job is to go into schools and talk to children and young people about fire safety and police topics. This morning I'm going to talk to you about gangs and gangs awareness. We're going to look at some of the criminal activities which are carried out by gangs, the consequences of joining a gang and being involved with gangs and gang lifestyle, some of the recruitment techniques which gangs use to recruit new members, and some of the support mechanisms which are in place to help young people that are involved with gangs and get out of that sort of lifestyle. So, what are gangs, or co-offending groups as they're sometimes known as? So it's a group of individuals which carry out criminal acts together, okay? So this can range from theft and robbery, drug dealing and distribution, youth violence, weapon-enabled crimes, rape and sometimes murder, okay? So why would somebody want to get involved in a gang? A lot of the time it's for respect and status, or a sense of belonging. Sometimes it gives people or young people a sense of identity, okay? It helps them gain friends and a reputation. Sometimes it's done for the excitement, okay? So sometimes it's done because people want the kick or the thrill out of what being in a gang can do. They can sometimes act as substitute families for certain people that maybe are vulnerable or come from broken homes. Being involved in a gang can give them that type of family that they're looking for. Reputation and power is another big thing as to why people want to get involved with gangs. It can be peer pressure related. They can want to be involved with gangs for safety and protection. Sometimes it's to make money. People can make lots of money being involved in gangs. Or sometimes they're forced into the situation, so they have no alternative but to get involved whether they like it or not. So that feeling of a sense of belonging or wanting to be part of something is a big recruitment tool for gangs, okay, especially vulnerable people. Now, we put young people into the category of vulnerable people. Now, that's purely because at a young age, teenagers, that pre-teen age, they're looking for that excitement, that thrill. They're looking for new things to try, but they don't necessarily have the capacity to think about the consequences. So it puts teenagers into that category, and they are easily led, and that's why gangs will tend to prey on younger people. Gang life can be made to look appealing, okay? So what tends to happen is that young people will be offered lots of expensive goods, money, a nice lifestyle, alcohol, drugs, all the things that can be appealing to young people. And this is what gangs use as a tool to encourage people into that lifestyle. So if we look at how somebody is recruited into a gang, as we've already said, it's usually young or vulnerable people that are targeted, okay? Gangs will pretend to be more than just friends. They will pretend that they are their closest allies or act as if they're close family members, okay? Money and drugs or gifts, as I've already said, will be given to people to entice them into that lifestyle, okay? Sometimes people find themselves in a situation where they are then owing money to the gangs themselves, and the gangs give them that option to join their gang and work for them to pay off their own debt, okay? So that's another reason why sometimes people end up in that gang lifestyle. So we're going to have a look at something called county lines, okay? Now, this is basically the movement of drugs from urban and city areas into rural areas, okay? So young people, usually younger people, are used as drug mules, okay? So what this means is that they will move drugs up and down the county from inner cities to villages and things like that. drug mules, as what they're called. So the people moving the drugs from different parts of the county are called drug mules. They are given mobile phones where they will receive instructions on where to collect the drugs from and where those drugs or money have got to be distributed. Okay, so that phone will be on 24/7, 7 days a week. If they don't answer their phone when their gang member or gang leader is calling, then there is huge consequences for this. Young people are trapped into this drug trafficking system by the elder gang members. Okay, so this isn't something that they're asked to do. They have no choice. Okay, they're told that this is what's going to happen, and there's nothing that they can do about it. All right, now gangs are involved with lots of different types of drugs and distributing the drugs across the county, across the country. So if we look at Class A drugs, you've got things like crack cocaine, ecstasy, heroin, things like that. Okay, so the law for this states that possession, so if somebody is carrying these drugs, that they would get 7 years in prison and an unlimited fine. Okay, if people are caught supplying this or production, making the drugs, it's a life sentence. Okay, or an unlimited fine. Usually it's both. So this is why the elder gang members will get these young recruits in, manipulate them into the situation where they end up as drug mules, running the drugs to and from different destinations. Because this carries such high prison sentences, the older gang members don't want to take that chance themselves. Okay, so it is these younger people that are recruited to basically do their dirty work for them. So you've got Class B drugs. Okay, so that's things like cannabis, codeine, things like that. Okay, so if you're caught in possession of any of these, there is a maximum sentence of up to 5 years in prison, and again an unlimited fine, or we end up with both. If you're caught supplying or producing these types of drugs, it's 14 years in prison, and again an unlimited fine, or both. So again, you see, this is why those younger people are used to distribute these drugs and run these drugs for these gangs. You've got Class C drugs, which are things like steroids, cat, things like that. Okay, so again, it's very much the same sort of thing. There is a prison sentence that you will get if you're caught in possession, okay, which is up to 2 years in prison, an unlimited fine, or again both. Supply and production, very much to Class B drugs, has a prison sentence of up to 14 years with an unlimited fine, or again both. So you can see why gang leaders don't take the chance of doing this sort of work themselves, and they will recruit these younger people into that gang lifestyle. They'll offer them goods, money, alcohol, things like that to get them, entice them into that lifestyle, and then they will get them working for them. And these young people have no choice but to take on those demands that have been asked of them. So, as I'd said previously, gangs do like to prey on the weakest and sort of most vulnerable members of society. Okay, so this is referred to as cookering. So what we mean by this is that they will decide, or they will watch people and decide on who they feel is vulnerable. They'll watch their comings and goings. This can be elderly people. It can be people that have got drug addictions themselves or alcohol problems. And they, again, will start to build up a relationship with these individuals. What they will then do is move themselves into these people's homes. Okay, these people won't be given a choice. They will be manipulated into that situation, and these people's homes are then turned into drug dens and places where the drugs can be made, cut, and then distributed from these homes. Now, these people, like I had said, are vulnerable members of society, and this is why gang members home in on them, okay, and manipulate them into using their property so that they can carry out their criminal activities. So, life in a gang, okay, usually people are required to prepare or move drugs, okay, for drug deals. They could be required to carry out very violent acts against others, okay, so this is normally when we're referring to sort of gang on gang, okay, there is that gang on gang warfare that goes on, and more often than not people find themselves in these situations where they're actually having to take acts of violence out against one another. Once you're in a gang and in that gang lifestyle, you're under that constant threat of violence against yourself, okay, so you never get that opportunity to just go for a walk, have a day out, have a day away from it. Once you are involved in that situation, you are constantly looking over your shoulder, because there's always somebody out there that's going to be wanting to, to turn a knife on you, or, to have you done over because you're not part of their gang, you're part of a different gang. It's a very, very sad world that these people now live in. There is the chance of sexual violence, okay, so you can be at risk of sexual violence. It's true for boys and girls, okay, so this isn't just something that applies to girls that are involved in gangs. It is also boys that that get caught up in this situation as well. Once you're in that sort of lifestyle, a gang lifestyle, it's almost impossible to leave, okay, so once you're signed to these groups, to actually just get out is almost impossible, okay. The chances of you actually getting away from a gang is very, very slim. The most likely chance of you actually escaping a gang lifestyle is if you are killed, okay, and taken away in a box. It's as horrible as that is to say, that is the reality of it, okay. So there is a strong chance of you ending up dying, all right, or serving some sort of prison sentence, okay. So even if you end up in prison, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're then out of the gang, okay, so they will keep in contact with you, and you'll still be asked to do things even though you're on the inside. So we're going to talk briefly about girls that are in gangs, okay, because it's not something that people kind of associate girls with as much, but girls are part of gangs. Their involvement tends to come when they're sort of relationship based, okay, so when the girl starts seeing a guy who's involved with a gang, inevitably she will then get brought into that gang lifestyle. More often than not, she's asked to hide sort of drugs and weapons, okay, so that can be carrying stuff in her bag for her boyfriend, things like that, okay. After a period of time, she'll be asked to rob and steal for the gang. That's very, very common. She usually will be asked for sexual favours as well from the gang, okay, so she'll become almost the gang's property for them to do what they will. There's a strong risk of emotional and physical abuse, okay, for girls that find themselves sort of caught up in that gang lifestyle. Again, it's very sad. They are seen very much as a gang's possession, not just of the one individual that she was dating or seeing at the start. She then is owned by them as well, very, very sadly. So some of sort of the gang myths, okay, so you've got this whole illusion that, being in a gang is being part of a huge family, that being in a gang is exciting, that you'll end up with lots of money and nice things. This simply isn't the case, okay. It is very much sort of made to seem like that's how gang lifestyle is, and unfortunately it has a very, very dark side to it. Things don't end well for people that find themselves in a gang lifestyle, okay. As I said previously, people normally end up serving prison sentences or they end up dead. So very, very sort of a bleak outlook for anybody that is involved in that. So let's have a look briefly at some of the signs, okay. So people's personalities can change quite often when they get involved with gangs, okay. So let's have a look at some of those different types of signs that could be, triggers for you to kind of step in and try and do something about it and help someone. So people tend to start staying out late, okay, and not coming home at all. That's because the gangs are normally working on building those relationships with with that individual, okay? They start to skip school, their results change, okay, so their grades start to be affected. They start having money, clothes, nice accessories, things like that, okay, which they can't account for. You know, they may say things like, oh, it was a present from a friend. Just stuff that doesn't really ring true. You might find that people start to drink more or start abusing drugs. They start to distance themselves from their parents and maybe their close friends or people that they've been friends with for a long time. They start to carry weapons. This could be a knife, guns. Their interest in music can change. All right, so they might start to listen to music which glorifies weapons and that gang culture and that lifestyle. Their dress style can change quite often, okay, so they'll start to wear stuff which associates them to gangs. Their language, the type of language that they use is different. Their behaviour can change, okay, so they can become quite fearful, withdrawn, okay, not talk as much as they had done, always be looking over their shoulder. This is a common sign of somebody that is involved in a situation they're not comfortable with. They start to get involved in fights, okay, especially outside of your local area. So this can normally be sort of gang on gang type warfare. Again, very, very common. They can start being stopped by the police, randomly searched. This is normally an indication that they're known by the police, okay? And they will pull these people aside and do random searches. So there's lots and lots of different types of signs, okay, or warning signs that somebody could find that, that's in that situation and that needs some help. So if you have concerns, or you think that somebody's been groomed by a gang or been trying to bought into a gang, I think it's so important that you talk to someone, all right? So whether that be a parent or a care worker, a teacher, friend, an agency worker, maybe even a childminder, the police, talking is so important, okay? This really is the key to helping people out of these situations. If it's happening to yourself, I think you need to take a step back and think and remove yourself from that situation. If people are being too friendly to you or wanting to give you things, question that. I don't know this person. Why is this person being so nice to me? Really think about why that person and what other motives they may have for acting the way in which they are towards you. Again, as I'd said previously, if you've got concerns at all about anybody, you must talk to someone, okay? Somebody that you trust, somebody that can offer you advice, okay, and support. It is so important, and I think people are sometimes a bit worried to stand and speak up, but actually this is how these situations get resolved and how we can protect people from finding themselves in this sort of lifestyle. Key things to remember: all gangs want to do is exploit and make money from an individual, okay? They're not your family, they're not friends. That will be the game that they'll play right at the start. But the reality is that's not what they're about. They just want to exploit you and make as much money out of you as possible. They will always target vulnerable people, okay? So young people, people that may have been bullied at school, that are, isolated, have had troubled pasts, or they've got mental health issues. These are the types of individuals that gangs will prey on, okay? Being part of a gang is only going to make life worse, okay? Or troubles that you may have in your life worse. It's not going to make life better for you in the long run. Thank you for listening this morning. I hope I've given you a slight insight into what gangs are about and gangs awareness. I hope you have a wonderful day.